it depends on their year in residency somewhat. You know, the residents who are later in their training program are usually looking for advice about what type of jobs to look at and how to pick a good job. And people earlier in their career are just looking for how to function within their residency. And those people starting out when they come to the residency, I think the best advice I give is try not to, in the beginning, to pigeonhole yourself too much. I don't know if that's a term that's used in Australia, but these days, because there's so much specialization and subspecialization, there's a tendencies for residents to very quickly sort of focus on what they're interested in ultimately as a subspecialty and become less interested in the other parts of orthopedics. And really, to be good in any specialty or subspecialty, you need first to be a good orthopedic surgeon. So you should take advantage of all the different subspecialties that you're educated in as a resident. Learn as much as you can about every subspecialty, because that will ultimately contribute to making you better in whatever subspecialty you choose. Because orthopedics is a generally integrated specialty, and even as a subspecialist, you have to know what's going on in the other subspecialties to do a good job in your particular subspecialty. The other piece of advice I give to people is, they get out of it what they put into it. Usually, the attending surgeons, although they're all dedicated to teaching, that's why they're here. At the same time, they're not going to spoon feed you, like, make, force you to learn. So the more that you put into trying to learn yourself and reading and asking the right questions, the more you're going to get out of the mentors and teachers, because they'll see the effort that you're putting in and they'll spend more time trying to help you hone your skills and your knowledge base. But if they see you as just sitting around, not doing anything to learn on your own, they become less interested in you and feel that you're not worth spending their extra effort in educating you. I don't think that my leadership style has changed much over the years. I think the key, at least I believe, is always promoting a team atmosphere. And part of that means, leading from the front, that I have to pitch into the team like everybody else, and people have to see that, the boss is willing to be part of the team and fill in when if something happens and somebody can't cover something, like, yeah, I'm free, I'll cover it. I'm free, I'll do this. This patient, I'm tied up in the OR. Can you see this patient for me? The answer is always yes, because I'm helping out the team and they do it for me. So I've always tried to promote a team atmosphere where we have each other's backs. And I think that is, first of all, suggested in everything that I would say, that we need to work as a team and cover each other. And then to back that up, you have to behave as a team member. So you're leading everybody, you're behaving in a way that you expect everybody else to behave. So I'm very much a team person. The other thing I've always done to promote that is, the teams function better when they know each other. So we have always been a big proponent of doing fun things together outside of work, so we can build a team spirit that goes beyond what we do just together in the hospital. So people who know each other personally on a personal level are more likely to help each other out, understand their strengths and weaknesses, and function better as a team. So I try to promote the team atmosphere in the hospital, and then to supplement that, we do a lot of team building activities outside the hospital. We have at any one time, the attendings are used to, like we finished the OR early today, we better go have a beer together, or let's, set up a dinner where all people come and go, or a couple times a year we do formal things, like we have a resident ski weekend where all the attendings can come as well, and everybody comes and goes and skis together. So activities outside of the hospital to build teams help to strengthen the team in the hospital. That's a really hard question, because I felt like there's been very much that's been rewarding in my career. And I guess in places, in the three places I've worked at Charity Hospital in New Orleans, and in Boston, and here, what's been most rewarding has been taking organizations that weren't functioning as a team and created them into a team thing with the commensurate increase in our recognition of excellence and the general productivity in every way. When you start to work as a team, people are happier, and they get more done together, and more ideas are shared, and you make great things together. So, it was rewarding at Boston. When I moved to Boston, there was really no trauma program to speak of, and the hospitals there, the Harvard hospitals, Mass General, the Brigham, and the Beth Israel and Children's, they all function very separately, and I was given the charge of somehow uniting a service, which we did, and then we actually were able to achieve the status of being called Harvard Orthopaedic Trauma. So actually, even though you're a Harvard hospital and a Harvard faculty, none of the individual programs can call themselves Harvard unless they go across the whole of the Harvard system. So we were the only clinical program that was allowed to call itself Harvard Orthopaedic Trauma. So I had to meet with a lot of dead old men at Harvard to finally, took about, after we had everything in place, it still took, a couple years to get through all the paperwork that was required to do it in the stodgy Harvard system. Here, there were a bunch of separate groups that I united, who now feel pretty much united under the banner of Cedars-Sinai Orthopaedics. So in general, rather than specific events, I've been proud to be able to create teams where none existed before. I would say the steps are the same, but very different. The first step is spending time understanding what is present, where everybody is beginning. And that takes a great deal of time to understand the personalities, to understand their fears, to understand what might prevent them from wanting to be a member of the team, and what might motivate them to be part of the team. It takes a lot of time that people don't necessarily equate with work. It's a lot of dinners, it's a lot of hanging out, it's a lot of going to meet people and getting to know, who's the leaders, who's the followers, who's the people that are curmudgeons, and where, what the landscape. So I think that's the first step in everything, is figuring out what exists and what is good and bad. And starting with the idea that everything is good. Like, I never want to go into a place, and I've seen many failures of this, where people come in and just right away say, you guys are doing it all wrong, and it's terrible, and you need to change and do this. There's nobody anywhere that thinks they're doing it poorly. You have to ultimately convince people that, yeah, you're really good, but we could be better if we do this. Not, you're bad, we need to change. It's, you're good, let's be better. But all of that is you have to spend time understanding all the people involved. So that's the first step in everything. The other step is you need a vision of where you want to go, what ultimately you want to, what's your, sort of 5-year vision of what it will look like in the end. And then the path to getting there can change dramatically, but if you have sort of a goal of what you're getting to, there's circuitous routes, and at times you'll hit a roadblock here or there, and you say, well, I can't go that way, we'll go around this way, and you just keep moving through whatever series of roads are available to ultimately get to your final goal. What doors are open, what doors are closed, what things have changed. So you need the goal of what you're trying to achieve, and then develop strategies for how you get there. It's a big chess game, everybody wants to win the chess game. The ultimate goal is a checkmate, but lots of things, you're not the only person on the board. You have to pay attention to everybody on the board and figure out how you get to that final goal. But if you don't have a final goal, it's hard to get to the goal. And you sometimes have to alter your goal. You have to change what it is, but you need a sort of vision of where you want to take things, and then the steps along the way. So I think those things don't change from thing to thing, but how you get there changes from institution to institution, and it changes from year to year, and external forces that change how you have to move in that direction, and all that. You have to be open. You have to be open to living in ambiguity. That okay, this path is blocked. I'm done for. Like, that's the end. I can't do this. Well, you just need to find a new path. So you have to be open and ready for change, and be willing to live in ambiguity. Be willing to accept that you can't change everything all at once. And when there's roadblocks in one area you're working in, say, okay, well, we'll leave that from now, and we'll go work on this area where I can move here, and then we'll keep an eye over there. If the door opens over there, then we'll go back and we'll move through that door. So it's sort of just keeping an eye on where you're going and what windows are open and what doors open, and then ultimately taking advantage of when something opens. I enjoy almost everything outside of work and study, but I do like outdoor things. And since moving to LA, I've rediscovered golf. So I play a lot of golf now, but I've always been a big skier. So I ski a lot, hike a lot, bike a lot, fish in the summer in the mountains, and ski in the winter in the mountains. And a particularly enjoyable weekend is just doing something, restaurants or things with friends and groups, or a happy hour on the beach. I like not working, so it's almost everything I like out of the hospital. I saw that question, and I tried to think if there was anything in particular that I like novels, and I like books, and I love movies, but I can't say. I was thinking, what book is there one book I could point a finger to that was more than anything? And the only thing I could come up with was a book called Flatland. Have you ever heard of it? Flatland was written by a mathematician. It's a very old book, and it's a story. It's a very short book, so anybody can read it. It's nice and short, which I also like. A book that's not too long. But it's a story about a flatland. So it's a two-dimensional world, and your status, the caste system in the world is based on the number of corners that you have. So if you're like the serfs the serfs are triangles, they have 3 points, and sort of the working class are squares, they have 4 points, and circles are the highest, the kings, because they have an infinite number of points. And it's very interesting because it's very mathematical. There's ways that you can tell the status, even though you're in the same plane. So if you're in the same plane, everybody looks like a line, right? No matter how many points you have. So you have to be able to figure out how many points somebody has, and that has to do with how the sun shades things. But that's not the important part of the book, although it's a very interesting part of the book. The interesting part of the book is this square, this working class person, is visited by a being from another planet, from a 3-dimensional planet, is visited by a sphere. Of course, he can't see the sphere because he's in a 2-dimensional world, and the sphere is trying to describe what a 3-dimensional world looks like, and the sphere is trying to explain this, and the sphere will pass through his world, and it'll go from a dot to a circle to a dot, but he can't. He says, like upward but not northward, and describing the whole thing. And finally, this being from another universe is able to take the square out to look at to see from a 3-dimensional the world from a 3-dimensional, and of course then the square completely understands, but can't. They ultimately put him in a mental institution because he can't. They think he's crazy because he's talking about this god from another world that is a sphere. But the point of the book is really like trying to see things from a different perspective, which if you can, the sort of cliche way to talk about it's thinking out of the box. But this was sort of a perfect description of thinking out of the box. Like, how can you see the world a little differently than what is our common experience? And I don't know that I've ever been able to achieve it, but it's always been a goal of mine to try to see things from a different perspective.